Hey! Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel of crafting, crochet and knitting. My name is Nikki. How are you guys doing? As always, let me know by leaving a comment down below. I am doing okay. I'm finding I've got a little bit more free time at the moment, so I'm making the most of it and stitching as much as I can. So I've got a couple of things just to show you from my stash busting efforts. Probably going to make this video a little bit of a short one so I can get back to knitting. So yeah, one of the first ones is this yarn here. I've shown both the yarns I'm showing today before, and they will be shown again in my variegated megasode, which is coming up really soon. So yeah, but this one here is what I've been working on. Really short colour transitions, so each colour is only about the length of 3 fingers before it turns into the pink and then purple, etc. So this was a 200-gram ball that I got hold of, which actually at the time I got it for a really good price for 200 grams, but unfortunately it's not the softest yarn. But that was fine because I was on a serious budget at the time, and also it's not meant to be worn against the skin. It's a cardigan pattern, so it's kind of okay. But I would now get better yarn if I was going to do something similar again. And when I first got it, it was quite a while ago now, I wanted to try and make a garment out of it for a friend's child, and I settled on a jumper pattern that I could do on straight needles because I only had straight needles at the time, and it is just literally 2 garter stitch squares stitched together, and I really kind of hate it. And I just added these little tiny little sleeves. I don't even know what they are. I very quickly decided I was not going to gift this because it is not giftable, and it kind of was the thing that made me want to start crochet, because I could do that just with a hook and I could work in the round, but then also later on I did invest in some circular knitting needles, and I found some simple baby cardigan patterns that I'm really enjoying working, because even though they're not very challenging patterns in terms of technique, you can get so much out of a variegated yarn just letting the colour speak instead of the techniques. So that's what I did, and I really like this. So from a distance, the garter stitch doesn't look too bad, but it's when I hold it up really close that you can kind of see that it kind of doesn't pull very nicely. It's got these ridges from the garter stitch. However, with this one, from a distance, you wouldn't know, but close up, look at that. How much better is that pooling? I'm not going to say too much about this because this is going to be the topic of the 50th megasode episode on variegated yarn, but that is so much nicer, and so this pattern, even though it's really simple, just lets that colour pop and speak for itself, which I really love. I've done this pattern before, so the browns and orange and whites cardigan is, oh, actually that one might not be the same pattern. It might be the blue one that's this pattern. The blue that had like little white flecks in it. I will link the video in the description that I'm talking about. But yeah, just a really simple baby cardigan. It's a top down, so cast on enough for the neckline in a rib stitch, work that rib stitch, and then start the increases at the sort of fake seams. So because this is all in one piece, these are not real seams, but there's this little, there's 2 stitches where you actually chain from a knit to a purl, and then you increase either side of it, and that has the effect of kind of closing up and making it look like it's been sewn, which is really quite cute. But tidy at the same time, really consistent, which I really like. Then I've got a garter stitch button band, so every time I haven't blocked this. I really want to block this because every time I try to show off the button band, it curls in on itself. So there's the garter stitch button band. I need to find some buttons that will go on that and stitch it together. And then on the opposite side, we have got those little holes, which are really just so easy to make up. I really paid attention to how many rows I had between them this time, so they are all evenly spaced with the exception of the top and the bottom where they needed to be closer together, based on sort of the rib stitch around the neckline and the base. So yes, it's rib stitch at the base. I definitely cast off in the wrong direction though. That is a big mistake. I'm going to have to try and work out how to do that properly in future, because I really don't like that being present. It looks so much nicer on the other side where you just can't see it so much. So that's an oops, but what are you going to do? And yeah, you'll notice there's no sleeves on this yet. That is because I've kind of taken a bit of a dislike to sleeves. I've kind of realised that I love a top-down approach, because once you get onto this part, you just knit and purl all the way down until you need to rib stitch the base. And then when you get to this, like when you get to the rib stitch at the bottom and you're casting off, there's such a sense of success that you've finished the garment. And then you remember you have the sleeves to do. So I kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to stick them on some ribbons so that I can use the needles to get going on another project. And I thought that way I might work through the yarn faster, because I'm trying to stash bust at the moment. So if I kind of work up 3 jumpers, just the body part first, and then go back and finish off the sleeves, I feel like it's gonna like mentally go a bit faster than if I try to do complete garments one at a time. And I also just really want to see how all these colours work up, so there's that sort of eagerness to jump into the next project that is just not going to be satisfied by making sleeves. So that's what I have decided. And the next yarn I really wanted to jump into and been so keen to jump into this one is this yarn here. Now I cannot pronounce that. I've got zero knowledge on how to pronounce that. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you do know how to pronounce that. I do know about umlauts, but I don't think this is German. I don't, even though that umlaut is there, I don't think that it's German pronunciation, because I've never seen a word like that in German. So if you do know, please let me know in the comments. This is such a surprising yarn. Because I usually, when you go to discount stores or like factory stores that have the yarn on the cheap, which at the time that I was buying this yarn, I was on a much stricter budget than I am now. And what with, you know, being a student, students have no money. So yeah, so this yarn came from a factory shop, and the thing that's really bugging me when I was first looking for this yarn is that I wanted something that was wearable for a girl, and I preface that I do not mean that colour is gendered, just that something that would have a little bit of pop of traditional girl colour in it, because my problem at the time is that everything was pink or blue, and I wanted something which was just like a hint of that, and not actually really bright in your face variations of pinks or variations of blues, because I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. And this is literally at the time the best I could find. Like this was the closest to having other colours in it that I could find, at you know, a price that was affordable for me. And I'm really happy to say that I found a factory shop nearby that has much more variations. So that's where I found the orange, brown and white combination from previous video. I will link that in the description, because I'm going to talk a bit more about sort of the same pattern that I used in that video. And I found this as well, and I really like that this has got these reds and greens, and this is just totally unisex. It's more interesting as well. Like I'm so sick of the same pink colorways when looking for yarn on a budget. So yeah, this was great. And what makes it even better from an actual, you know, yarny perspective is it's so soft. Like for a cheap yarn, this is ridiculously soft, especially compared to something like this. I've had to use a lot more hand cream when working with this. That's definitely going to be going over a sort of like a little t-shirt undershirt, whereas this actually probably could be worn on the skin. Still probably wouldn't advise it, because you've always got to be careful with baby soft skin, and this is going to be for a young child, but it's so much softer. I wouldn't be nearly as worried about this yarn. So yes, really happy with this, and let me show you what I've been making with it. So it's on the needles at the moment. I had a bit of an issue, because when I was casting on, I was initially starting with the colour on the outside of this ball. Now the colour on the outside of this ball has got this grey and white line, and when I was doing up the rib stitch in that, I really did not like the effect. So I've gone from the centre instead, because the centre pull came out in this block red. I like that so much more. You can see a bit more of the texture. And this is, as you can see, in the round. So here's what I did. I've become a fan of this pattern, which I will put a link to in the description. I don't think it has a name. If it does, I apologise. I'll put that in the description too. I've made 2 other cardigans before. One, which was that orange, brown and white combination, is actually in a different pattern, but has a similar principle of being, you know, top down, working not in the round, working backwards and forwards because it's a cardigan, and having a button band in garter. And then the other one that I showed in the same video was made out of a blue yarn with white flecks, and it was this pattern. I think I might have gone the size up with this one. It doesn't specifically size up, it just kind of says to add an inch to the back, so when you increase you just make it a bit longer. So I worked out, for me that was another 6 stitches, so that was like another 3 rounds. So made this the size bigger than that one, but I do really like how the seam works up for that one. I like how it's such an easy knit to make. The increases are just right down that seam, so they're really easy to spot when you need to increase. And so what I decided to do with this, because I wanted a jumper instead of a cardigan, and I wanted to make this bigger because I had way more yarn. So I had 200 grams of this, so I knew I could do the next size up. 100 grams, was it 100? I think it was about 150 grams is what I used to make the it's not the newborn size, but it's like the first size that they actually provide in the pattern. So I think it's like 3 months, I think. So I knew I had more and I could do a slightly bigger size with that one, but I've got 300 grams in this yarn, so I wanted to actually try and size it up. So what I've actually done is I've taken the measurements from the pattern, worked out how many more stitches I needed for the neck to make it bigger for a young child or an infant. It's quite loose because I deliberately didn't join it straight away. I've just left this little bit to sew up, or even to just leave open, or to add a button, so that it will definitely go over the child's head. Children's heads are huge. But then I worked out how I would then join it, so that instead of having a button band, it would eventually be in the round. So I've got I had bigger sleeves to start off with. I think in the pattern you start with 6. I started with 10. And then on the sides you start with 26, I think. I started with 30, just so that it was that little bit bigger. And then I'm going to increase it. I'm thinking maybe increase these to 40 and increase the front and back up to 60, and then see how big that looks, measure how much the armhole would be at that point, measure how much the circumference of the torso would be at that point, and see if that's going to be enough for the size child garment that I'm going for. And yes, this is how it's looking. So really excited. I've got that seam in here, so that is going to close up when it's loose and sort of allowed to, there you go, you see how that's closing up there. And the other thing I just want to say about this is I had no idea how Christmassy this would be when it worked up. I am loving this. So it kind of looks like it could be self-striping from the outside. It's got these long colour changes instead of the short ones. And it is surprising that you can get around the torso 3 or 4 times with some of the colours. So it is working up like a self-striping, which is really interesting. A little bit of a challenge because when I come back to the sleeves I have to make sure that I line that up properly, and of course the sleeves are going to be a shorter circumference than the torso, so I haven't thought about that challenge. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. I might have to do some colour control, but we'll see how that goes. So that is the benefit of actually being able to then eventually join the torso, do the rest of the body, see how the stripes work out, and then come back and use the second and third balls of yarn, which I haven't started yet, to make sure that I match those sleeves nicely. Yeah, because actually now that it's striping, it will really bother me if I don't match that. So yeah, that's what I have been up to. I realised that I said this was going to be a short video and it's totally turned out not to be a short video. So I'm going to stop babbling about cardigans. As you can tell, though, I am excited about them at the moment. I'm enjoying making something that I feel like someone's going to wear. So yeah, that's exciting. I'm going to be casting on another one there's going to be a cardigan in the blue because I've got enough left for another cardigan out of the blue and white speckled yarn, and that's going to be a gift. So yeah, but this right here, this is well and truly staying with me for when I want to start a family, because this is just going to be the cutest little Christmas jumper, I think. Didn't expect it to turn into that, but yeah, it totally is. So loving that. Anywho, I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to go back to finishing this knit, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.